David Lombardi has tremendous numbers from the game, unless you're talking about missed tackles and then not tremendous numbers, but certainly on the offensive side. At Lombardi himself, make sure that you're following him, make sure you read his great stuff in The Athletic, and he joins us courtesy of the Uma guest line. What's happening?
Hey, how's it going? We talked about this like 2 months ago. I was telling you guys Brock Purdy was on that MVP trajectory, and here we are. Now he's the odds-on favorite.
Yeah, and even not even money. I mean, he's big time favorite. But as you pointed out, though, it's interesting because Lamar Jackson's coming in, so on Christmas he could make a statement. Brock could make a statement. Dak Prescott struggled yesterday, so that went down. Tyreek Hill is hurt. Jalen Hurts hasn't been as good. So this thing is kind of opening up here for really both these guys. Maybe even, as we've been talking about, maybe even 1-2.
Yeah, but I feel disrespectful to Purdy to even have other guys in that conversation right now, unless it's Christian McCaffrey and you want to use the greatest show on turf argument, because from 99 to 2001, in 99, Kurt Warner won it. Marshall Faulk was second in the voting. In 2000, Kurt Warner missed a few games and Marshall Faulk actually won the MVP. And in 2001, Warner won it and Marshall Faulk was number 2 again. And if you want to make, that argument and talk about, just how great the 49ers offense is, just like the greatest show on turf Rams were, that's fine. But when we're talking about 49ers against other teams, I think it's disrespectful to what the 49ers have done. Brock Purdy is 76% more efficient than the second most efficient quarterback in football this year, if you look at EPA per play. I mean, it is Brock Purdy, 5 miles, and then number 2. Like in between. And I don't think people are quite grasping how much better and how much more efficient he has. And he and the whole offense have been than number 2 this year. We are seeing historic stuff. Brock Purdy just passed in adjusted net yards per attempt, which factors in interceptions, sacks, touchdowns. It's been actually the statistic that's been most correlated with the NFL MVP award. The greatest single season ever is Peyton Manning, 2004. And the second greatest single season ever had been Aaron Rodgers, 2011. Well, Purdy just passed 2011 Aaron Rodgers, and he's only 0.2 adjusted net yards per attempt away from 2004 Peyton Manning. So, this might end up being the most efficient season ever documented by a quarterback. And the fact that he's not being talked about as essentially an MVP lock is crazy to me.
All right, so it sounds like you're giving the award to Brock, and I get it when you match him up with the quarterbacks. But I honestly, David, I'm having a hard time, if you ask me to vote who's the MVP of the team, not giving the award to Christian McCaffrey. I think he's the best player, not only on this team, and they have a galaxy of stars, but he's the best player in the entire National Football League. Nobody runs the ball more than him. The yardage total is way out, 1,292. Hell, he's got 20 touchdowns and over 300 touches. The entire offense goes through him, and the Niners run the ball on 1st and 10 53% of the time. Can you explain to me, because you know the game so well, but you know the numbers as well, why is the running back position devalued? Maybe not overall in the league. I'm going to talk specifically about Kyle Shanahan. This is a run first-based offense, and it's the balance between the run and the pass, and McCaffrey and Brock, and we're simplifying it, but that crisis point where, they gives him the ball or pulls it and runs the keep in the boot game, the value of Christian McCaffrey on this offense, David, is way more than any other running back in the NFL. So just give me your thoughts on the value of McCaffrey to this offense and his candidacy to be the MVP.
Yeah, so I agree with you. I think Christian McCaffrey is the best player in the NFL, hands down. But this is the most valuable player award, and I think there's a lot more nuance to that. And just the way that the rules are set up, the last 10 MVP winners have been quarterbacks because it has skewed toward the quarterback. I think McCaffrey is tossing it back a little bit, though, with his versatile skill set. You saw on his first touchdown yesterday, he came out of the backfield. He's uncoverable by a linebacker, and he's just able to run that little angle route over the middle, and it's a touchdown from Purdy to McCaffrey. So McCaffrey is sensational. He's extremely important to the 49ers. I think at the end of the day, though, if you look at just pure value, you also have to factor in the fact that Brock Purdy's only making $800,000 this year, which is allowing the 49ers to, field this kind of roster around him. But the question of value was answered for us in the NFC Championship game last year. the 49ers had Christian McCaffrey fully healthy, ready to go in that NFC Championship game. Brock Purdy obviously wasn't, at least a healthy version of him wasn't available, and the wheels completely came off for the 49ers. And that's nothing against Christian McCaffrey. It's just the way that the sport is set up and the way that the sport works. And quarterbacks are protected now, and I mean, not protected well enough, obviously, to avoid the injury last year, but quarterbacks are the centerpiece of all that happens on that football field. And I know that the offense runs through Christian McCaffrey, but it begins with Brock Purdy. I think that Christian McCaffrey makes life a whole heck of a lot easier, but Brock Purdy makes life possible. I think that's what we saw in the NFC Championship game last year. But you can't take anything away from either of these two players. You just have to realize that's the nature of the game right now. And the 49ers, the reason they don't care, the reason that they're just all pointing at each other saying, no, you're the MVP, you're the MVP, is because they're so loaded with talent. And I think that's what we should be talking about, is the humility of this team. Brock Purdy says Christian should be the MVP, and Christian says Brock should be the MVP. But you understand, I think, once you see that, why they're so damn good. Because we've seen teams filled with stars before not perform at historic levels. And I think the 49ers have the right people to be able to handle the fact that they have so many good players to make sure they can still maximize efficiency instead of.
There's no doubt. Humility doesn't get clicks and listens, though. We have to be outrageous and bombastic. That's how we have to be. You went back to the NFC Championship game. I can go back to yesterday. When he went into the blue tent and missed 3 plays, I think collectively everyone held their breath. And I love Christian McCaffrey, but like you said, it's just weighted so heavily in the way of the quarterback. And then the other positions have an award as well. It's the Opoy, and I think he's going to win it in a landslide, especially because Tyreek Hill is hurt. And I think Brock's going to win it, although last week at this time, David, when we were talking, I found it that it might be hard to overcome the star on the side of the helmet of Dak Prescott versus pick number 262. But if they continue to slide, and now they play at Miami this weekend, and they're 3-4 on the road versus 7-0 at home, Dallas can't win on the road. So the very thing that boosts Dak Prescott up into the MVP race when they win is the thing that tears him down when they lose. And I think that's what happened against Buffalo. They struggled. They lost 31-10. And I'm looking at candidates as far as MVP, and they're dwindling. And I like Lamar Jackson a lot, and he's playing great, but he doesn't have the big numbers. So if Lamar Jackson goes off and they beat the 49ers soundly, I guess he could be back in the race. But I think it's going to be tough for anybody to get in the race now at this point of the season with 3 weeks left.
Yeah, actually, there are high stakes, I think, in this Monday night game, which, by the way, might be the biggest Week 16 game in the NFL since 1997, when the 49ers hosted the Broncos on Monday Night Football. I don't know if you guys remember that one, but it was Mike Shanahan coaching the Broncos, and the 49ers won 34-17, but that was the game that Jerry Rice came back from the torn ACL at the start of the season, but then I think he cracked his patella, scoring a touchdown. Denver ended up winning the Super Bowl that year. They beat the Packers. They beat the 49ers. Anyway, I looked last night for like bigger Week 16 games over the years, and that was the one that I stumbled across. It was Denver and San Francisco at Candlestick back in 97. Anyway, this one's got high stakes because, if the Ravens win and they have a better record than the 49ers leaving this game, and they do it on prime time, and Lamar Jackson, who's going to have over 3,500 passing yards and almost 1,000 rushing yards this season, he'll be the media darling, and he'll be the media darling at just the right time. And this is a human vote. There are 50 voters for the AP MVP award. So I think Lamar Jackson is second in the betting odds right now behind Brock Purdy, and this could change really quickly. So rarely do you have a regular season legacy game. This is lining up to be a regular season legacy game, and it's probably going to be the first of many legacy games the 49ers play this year. And when you're as good and as talented as they are, you earn the right to play in these types of games, and there's going to be a string of them coming up, right? Because the postseason is right around the corner as well.
Yeah, right now the favorites to win the MVP, Brock is number 1, Lamar is number 2, Dak 3, Jalen Hurts, and we'll see on his availability tonight with the illness in Seattle on Monday Night Football, and then Christian McCaffrey 5. So just going back to your research, and I know you got a very big piece in The Athletic this week on 1-2 in the MVP and the greatest show on turf, and what happened with Kurt Warner and Marshall Faulk, where they won it 3 straight years, Warner in 99, Marshall in 2000, Warner in 2001, and then 99 and 01 they They did finish 1-2. So you've made the point that you think Brock Purdy is the MVP of the 49er football team. What would it take for McCaffrey, though, to surpass all those other candidates, the quarterbacks and Tyreek and his injury situation with the ankle, and for the Niners to have the top 2 finishes in MVP this year? The voting is different now. It's 50 AP voters. They're all national guys. I don't know if you get a vote or not, David. You qualify as a national guy. You do cover the Niners, but you cover the whole league. And then the way they vote is 10 points for a first-place vote, and then you vote for second, third, fourth, fifth, all the way through. I think it's 4, 3, 2, 1, or whatever it is to break it down. So, I mean, what is the likelihood, and everything you're saying about the running back position versus the quarterback position and the way voters look at the overall value of quarterback supersedes, that McCaffrey could at least get a second-place finish?
Well, I go back to the model that I think the 49ers are following, that I think that the voting might follow, and that's the greatest show on turf, Rams. And Falk finished second twice to Kurt Warner, and he did it in seasons where he had about 2,000 all-purpose yards. And McCaffrey's on pace for about 2,000 right now, and one more game I should add, because they played 16 back then and they play 17 now. So if McCaffrey finished this season off with a couple more massive games, and he surpasses that 2,000 yard from scrimmage pace, he'll be right there with what Marshall Faulk did in the seasons where he was the runner-up, or even when he was the MVP in 2000. So I think that's a strong statistical finish here from Christian McCaffrey. There would be precedent for him to either be the runner-up or even MVP based on what Marshall Faulk did. But the issue is that Brock Purdy has been so good this year. The reason that Faulk won in 2000 over his teammate Kurt Warner is because Warner missed a few games, and that wasn't his best statistical season. I keep on going back to the part that Purdy's efficiency has been head and shoulders above the rest of the league this year, and we haven't seen a quarterback put up the numbers that Purdy has put up this year and not win the MVP. I also must note, and this would just take some luck, but in case the media, really thinks that McCaffrey is the engine that drives this 49ers offense, there have been ties before. Steve McNair and Peyton Manning tied in 2003. And then in 1997, perhaps even more interestingly, Brett Favre and Barry Sanders were co-MVP. So how about that? What if this voting gets split and ends up as a tie with Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey for MVP?
The other side of it is, so that's the MVP conversation. One thing you talked about was missed tackles. A lot of injuries yesterday, specifically inside. You knew they were going to pound James Conner right at him, but the 234 rushing yards was the most since the Cowboys had 265. I remember sitting at that game going, oh, my God, and Zeke Elliott went off and they lost 40-10. What is your concern level in terms of these injuries, in terms of these missed tackles moving forward? Because a lot of people are hitting up on the text line. They love the MVP conversation, but they want a Super Bowl ring as the 49ers do. So what's your concern level on the other side of the football?
Well, I think missing Hargrave and Armstead certainly had a significant amount of impact. It had something to do with it. Because that changes everything for the defense, right? If you're not winning as much in the middle, then there's a lot more pressure on the linebackers, and it's a domino effect. That being said, the 49ers have had tackling issues now for 3 straight weeks. They missed 12 against Philly. They missed 14 in the second game against Seattle, and then they missed 16 yesterday. That's a lot of tackles to miss. Generally, you want to keep it under 10. And they've had stretches this year where they've been elite tackling, like weeks 1 to 5. Every single game was under 10. They only missed 2 against Dallas. And then it was bad during the losing streak. They were missing a little bit more than 10 a game during the 3-game losing streak. The worst was Cincinnati. They missed 13. They really just needed a breather. So they got the bye week. And they came back out, and they were tackling really well coming out of the bye for the first 3 games. But the last 3, they've been back to a lot of missed tackles. So it's been Jekyll and Hyde for this team tackling. I would hesitate to make overarching judgments until Monday because, I talked to Fred Warner after the game in the locker room, and this is definitely, something they're not happy about this performance. And I wouldn't bet on Fred Warner having 2 shoddy performances against the run. Just knowing his track record, knowing how seriously this defense is going to take a Monday night showcase opportunity. it could be just some, human psychology, right? You look at the fact that the offense is so explosive, they can gloss over so many errors. Maybe the defense has, lost a step of focus, but they're obviously very capable enough, like talent-wise, and if that talent is going to shine, that focus is going to shine through. I think it would on Monday night against the Ravens in such a huge game.
And Fred, he was just tackling too high, and he missed 3 tackles, and T.Y. McGill had 3, Randy Gregory had a couple, T. Gipp, a little out of control. I think when you watch the All-22 back, David, because I watched it back on the plane flying home last night, I think it was the play of the D tackles getting on the ground a lot. Javon Kinlaw did not have a good game at all. Kalia Davis did not have a good game at all. Really, none of them played well, and the run fits behind it. So it stood out that Warner and Greenlaw had poor games. And Dre, when he doesn't practice, he's just not ready to play. He just needs to be on the practice field. It's hard just to show up on a Friday and a walkthrough and play. He's not played well. Travarius Ward was able to pull it off yesterday. A couple of other injuries are concerning to me. Diamador Lenore with the rib injury got stepped on in the game. I thought he played the best of everybody on defense. That guy just tackles like an insane slot in that corner. I think, honestly, he's a better nickel back than K'Wan Williams was here. Certainly in coverage he is, and he tackles as well, if not better. And Baltimore's got the tight end likely going, and they got the 3 wide receivers with Zay Flowers. They put him in the slot a lot, and OBJ. And then I know McCaffrey finished the game, but that's just what he does. He's insane. And going back to the championship game reference you made last year, McCaffrey was not healthy going into that game at all. He had the terrible calf injury from the Cowboy game, and he was a big question mark going into that game, but he wound up playing. So I know Christian has a way of just toughing it out, but that knee injury when he got tagged by Antonio Hamilton and then landed on it, it was bothering him, and it was bothering both the right knee and the left knee, which Hamilton hit. So just any idea from being in the locker room after about Demo and Christian going into Christmas night?
Christian said he'll be fine. He says he's just overly cautious about the knee, but he bounced back, and I know we talked about it at halftime, you and I did, and we were wondering what happened, but he told me he was going to be fine when I asked him about it at his locker, and then he said the same thing up on the press conference stage. That's all I know at this point, and I also know that he came right back into the game after halftime and was running really hard. So you just have to take that for what it's worth. Lenore, Kyle Shanahan said he got it's something with his ribs. So somebody fell on him on the field. Shanahan didn't sound all too concerned during the press conference after the game, but that's always so frenetic after the game. I think that we'll know a little bit more today, a little bit later in the afternoon when he gives his Monday update. So, that's a big one because, Lenore has been really good, and obviously the guy on the other side, Travarius Ward, is knocking on the door of all-pro status. He's second in the league in picks, has a pick 6 to his name now, and also has been leading the league in pass breakups for several weeks.
All right, great stuff. David, always appreciate it. We look forward to your next piece, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Davey.
Toyotathon is on at Modesto Toyota. It's the biggest event